A design code is really just a set of design requirements for a geographic area.
A design code should set the expectations for design quality.
And the intention is that they're quite specific, they should be visual, and they should be measurable.
The government's seeking significant change in the planning system, mainly to speed up development.
More recently, government's really quite keen in looking at how local authorities lead on design codes through the National Model Design Code. Through the NMDC, local authorities work with communities hand in hand and develop what they think should be the guidelines for new development in place.
1984, the dockyard closed here. I grew up locally, so I remember that happening well and how different the town became at that point. There have been many waves of development. In some respects, we've been very lucky that the previous waves were not overly developed, because if they had been, much of the fabric, I think, would have been lost. One of the key aspects of the design code is actually to reveal a rather neglected history, and then to find ways of being creative with it.
In terms of translating the essence of what makes Chattam special into the code, it's a case of thinking about things like scale, materiality, massing, hierarchy across your spaces, your streets, helping a developer to understand what quality means distinct to that place.
The most intact part of the town centre is really the high street, but between that and the fringes of the town centre, there's about 4 miles or 6 kilometres of vacant frontages. And part of that is because they pedestrianised the high street at some point, and so all the car traffic got pushed out, which is great for the high street, but what that meant was they provided surface car parks, they knocked down heritage buildings to make the streets wider, and so there's a bit of this concrete collar. What we see with the design code doing is really supporting the high street by actually intensifying this area just beyond it to create new residential properties, to bring in a residential population that can then use the high street, obviously also diversify the shops to more food and beverage, to leisure uses, but also create better pedestrian connections across what this concrete collar is to the surrounding neighbourhoods.
Insisting on design doesn't push away investment. In fact, it can be the very opposite. High quality design can attract more investment into an area because it raises the profile of an area, it raises land values.
We identified the site as an opportunity because of understanding what Medway were looking to do with the town centre, and that's how we've come about working with Medway Council and getting involved in the design code. If you look at our initial concept from 6 months ago and their concept from 4 months ago, there's been sort of a meeting of two designs. You know, there is the ever need and challenge to make sure that high streets survive.
Along the way, we've spoken to so many people, and every step of the way I thought someone would say, no, this doesn't make sense, or no, we can't do that, and I thought there'd be much more pessimism. But I think the key moments for me were really seeing everyone kind of saying yes, and seeing the vision and saying, oh, I can see this happening.
A lot of people in the team are planners because they've got a social conscience. They want to make places better. They like design. We'll have those really strong parameters so we can say to the community and we can say to our members, this is the vision, this is what we want to see delivered, and these are the documents that are going to help us deliver that vision. Trafford wharfside is one of the council's strategic allocations, which is currently an industrial area on the edge of Trafford Park.
It's allocated for mixed-use development, employment, leisure, for a high number of residential units. So trying to accommodate that in the area will mean tall buildings, essentially.
We are tackling increased land values and overbidding for land, which means that developers need to get as much quantum on the site as they possibly can, which leads to issues of building up to site boundaries, no landscaping, very little amenity space for residents.
Tall buildings can be quite lacking in detail, the massing and form can be fairly uninteresting, and so the challenge of that is creating a good sense of place.
We've also got the climate crisis, we've got increased flooding events, so the design code is trying to address all of those issues and more.
Trafford certainly got the energy and the commitment to be at the forefront of delivering landscape-led development. The design code shows that you can deliver multiple benefits through a green infrastructure network. You could use that green infrastructure to deal with challenges, for example, of sustainable urban drainage. So you could design natural processes to deal with that, which ultimately will save money in the long run through not having to use engineered solutions. You can design in biodiversity, There's more and more pressure to achieve a net gain on every site. It creates a place where people want to live, want to visit. We've got evidence to suggest that that then increases the value of property. So there's a commercial gain for a developer by investing in the landscape infrastructure at the outset.
It is a blank canvas really, so we can create something exciting and innovative, a really strong identity for Trafford right on the edge of the borough.
Our code started with sustainability because our bid was for a retrofit-led design code. 80% of the homes that are going to be here in 2050 are already here. That means the bulk of the work we really need to do is retrofitting existing homes that we know are all around us. We were thinking about where would be a good place for a code, so what makes sense is somewhere there's a relatively high degree of repetition and something that might actually quite massively help the planners. So the Beckentry estate, which covers 40% of the borough, was the perfect place. All the work we've done hopefully doesn't have to be repeated by another council who has another interwar garden city, and there are loads of those. You can use this code or this guidance, alter things to suit your borough and scale it, because really to hit that deadline for all of us, we can't all be doing this from scratch each time. We all need to take different pieces, tackle it, share knowledge and expedite the process. If you draw a boundary of where the highest fuel poverty is in the borough, it would match identically with where the Beckentry state boundary is. And that's not a coincidence, it's because those house types were built 100 years ago without significant investment and improvement being done.
A lot of the homes on the Beckentry are quite small, so is there scope to increase the floor space of them? Well, yes, and we can see that through the permitted development schemes that have come through, but they're not necessarily aesthetically as great as they could be and not necessarily as efficient as they could be.
Everyone wants to tackle climate change, but on a day-to-day basis, it's very hard for people to concentrate and work out how they can do that. If we offer them cheaper energy bills and healthier houses, which are less likely to suffer from damp, then I think we've got a real chance of making progress with people.
We've produced a planning tool, which is about creating a simple way for people to understand what they can do to their homes, but be incentivized when they are making changes to create sustainable improvements to their home.
So therefore they'd have an idea of how they could potentially extend it or adapt, and we would be assured that overall it would help with the quality and appearance of the Beckentry.
For me personally, I know for future home improvements, that will always be at the back of my mind. And it will be a place where I can easily refer to if I'm stuck on any aspects. Just make sure right, okay, I'm doing the right thing and it's sustainable.
The design code afforded us the opportunity to do resident engagement.
We wanted at least one person from every ward to form this citizens' assembly or residents' advisory board, which was then a group that we regularly consulted with. They're paid for all of their time to co-design this with us.
It should mean that the kind of trust-confidence relationship with the council, because we're acting on behalf of the council, is stronger because we've worked together on producing something that has real-life implications.
We were writing stuff down on post-it notes, and then we'd come back for the next session. We could see all that had been captured. It's okay, so you are listening, we're kind of doing this together. Through these community experiences, you can actually impact what's happening.
So I've come in with a mindset that if you need to take part in something to change something, you have to be there, speak up.
And you'll never know until you try it. I feel very positive about my experience being involved with this, and it's led me on to other things.